All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would, please stand with me for our Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Riska. Can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Zarowski?
Here.
Mrs. McCaskey?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Present.
Present.
Mr. Yanes?
Here.
Mrs. York?
Present.
Thank you, council. We need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Konski.
move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. First item on our report is, first item on our agenda is our city manager's report today. Filling in for our city manager, Mark Vanderpool, is our assistant city manager, Jeff Bohorski. I guess I assume Mr. Vanderpool has a family issue. Mr. Vanderpool's father-in-law recently passed away, and the funeral is this week. His father-in-law and their family, his wife Kim and her family, are in our thoughts and prayers, and Mr. Vanderpool will be returning for the next council meeting, of course. So with that, Mr. Bohorski.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Vanderpool had a number of items for the city manager's report that he would like to present, so obviously we're going to push those to the December 3rd meeting. So that leaves me with a couple of community event items, the first one being the Dodge Park Ice Rink is officially opening for the season on Sunday, December 1st. The season will include many special events, including glow stick nights, superhero night, date night, and princess night. Residents can check the ice rink weather hotline at 586-446-2711 for up-to-date information on all days prior to coming to the rink. Also, as usual, more information can be found at the Sterling Heights website at sterlingheights.gov. Second community event item is a very popular one. The 47th annual Sterling Christmas is scheduled for Saturday, December 7th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Dodge Park. There are a variety of family fun activities planned, including a tree lighting ceremony, holiday music and caroling, a visit, of course, with Santa, horse-drawn carriage rides, and ice skating, and a trackless train for the kids. So please, attendees are encouraged to bring an ornament to add to the community tree near the Upton House. And the Historical Commission will be selling ornaments for $1 as a fundraiser. We'll also be collecting canned, non-perishable boxed food items for the needy. My last item, Mayor, is at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, the city attorney and I are requesting a closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act to discuss strategy in connection with collective bargaining and to discuss a confidential written legal opinion. That's it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bohorski. The next item on our agenda is an ordinance adoption, and this is to consider adoption of the City of Sterling Heights Workforce Housing Tax Exemption Ordinance providing for payment of service charges in lieu of real property taxes for the Icon Park residential housing development located at 33143, 33111, 33079, and 33047 Mound Road, and 5677, 5683, and 5705 14 Mile Roads. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Nelson.
Ken Nelson, Fire Steel, Sterling Heights. Yeah, when this was first presented, I was kind of all for it. And then I found out that basically when I asked for what the market value of the apartments were, he told me, the developer told me that this was the market value. So basically, we're giving all the tax breaks of a pilot plus workforce. I don't know what it is, and it's actually going to help the developer. It's not going to reduce the market values or the values of the apartments. I think that's wrong. I don't think we should allow it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Zarko.
do you want these, there's two items. Do you want them together or separate?
You can do them together.
Okay, thank you. Resolved to adopt the City of Sterling Heights Workforce Housing Tax Exemption Ordinance, providing for payment of services charged in lieu of real property taxes for the Icon Park Residential Housing Development located at 33143, 33111, 33079, 33047 Mound Road, and 5677, 5683, and 5705 14 Mile Road, and approve the municipal services agreement between the City of Sterling Heights and ARH Land Holdings LLC, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the city.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
I have no questions. I completely understand. But if there's anybody in, I would say, Mr. Keenan, if you'd want to explain the tax exemption part of this, or if there's somebody else that would like to explain it and answer the resident who seems to be concerned about it.
Okay, it looks like Mr. Bonner.
Bonner?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So it's actually, it's a good question. So when it comes to market rents, I think it's just, what we wanted to be clear is the market rents in this particular area are lower than market rents would be, let's say, for the new project at M59 in Shaner, which those have higher market rents. The market rents at this location are lower than that. So in order to make the project financially feasible at these lower projected rents, which then also relate to people making a certain income, we are recommending the pilot payment be reviewed for consideration so that the overall financing still goes to support this project. Again, they are market rates for this area, but they're lower overall, which would then cater to someone at a lower income. Not necessarily at the affordable level, but at the workforce housing level. So if that helps explain that.
Okay. Yeah, I understand it, but it's, you know, I just hope the project goes through because we set these projects up. Like I said, this is the third time that I can remember doing this, and once we get to the state level, then it becomes, or it doesn't happen. So hopefully this will go through. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zarko. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations again, Mr. Batal. Okay, moving on. Next up is the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? Mr. Shea.
Good evening, Jerry Shea, Sterling Heights. I have a question regarding consent agenda L, to adopt a resolution accepting the terms and conditions of land acquisition project agreement. It's regarding Rotary Park along the Clinton River. I want to know how much, between the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and the city, how much is the city paying for this property, and how many acres is the property? I know I could have read the backup, but I want it on the record publicly so you can state, because I know currently how big Rotary Park is. I want to know how many acres that whole park's going to be eventually when everything's said and done. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shea. Anyone else on the consent agenda? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Kosky.
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It's a 70-30, 70% from the state and 30% from City of Sterling Heights. $195,600 is the amount of the grant from the state. City's match is $83,900, Mr. Shea. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda is to consider a request by Zap Zone Utica Limited to transfer ownership of a Class C liquor license with Sunday sales permit AM and PM and entertainment permit and transfer location from 48840 Romeo Plank Road, Macomb, Michigan to 43680 Van Dyke, Sterling Heights, Michigan. Is there anyone who'd like, as the petitioner here?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm Kelly Allen. I am appearing tonight on behalf of Zap Zone Utica. And my client is not here. They're in Florida actually getting new toys for their Zap Zone.
Sounds exciting.
At a trade show, yeah. I really do want to reach out and thank your clerks. I mean, Melanie and Andrea were fantastic. I believe everything is in order here. This has been here in the community for quite some time. They've added a bar and a little restaurant area, and they are making it full service in order to have special events, private parties, that kind of thing. And for those adults who don't want to ride the bumper cars. So lots of safety measures in place, and we provided all that to liquor control, and we are seeking your approval tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience? Mr. Shea?
Jerry Shea, Sterling Heights. I'm going to be straight to the point. I'm opposed to this, period. I don't think it's good for a good location. I don't know how many young people go into this location and stuff, and I just don't think this is a good fit. So I'm strongly opposed to this, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shea. Anyone else? No, then council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve the request to transfer ownership of the 2024 Class C liquor license with Sunday sales permit, AM and PM, and entertainment permit from K&C Creative LLC to Zap Zone Utica LTD and transfer location from 48840 Romeo Plank Road, Macomb, Michigan to 43680 Van Dyke, Sterling Heights, Michigan, be considered for approval.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Yes, just briefly, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Radke.
I'm happy to see that Zap Zone has continued to invest in their business in the corridor there. We are seeing some ancillary development from both the placemaking that we're doing in the district and coming on residents. I guess I have through the chair of the petitioner, I have a question. I know that Zap Zone has recently made improvements. Were some of those improvements caused by or on behalf of the city because we are working to improve that entire corridor right now?
I don't believe so.
No, they were already in a plan to add a sales permit to this?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because when I spoke with the owners there, when we unveiled the mural on the side of the building.
Okay.
They said that they were investing in the business to essentially because they feel like it's a new life on the area.
Well,
No.
if you talk to Gaz and Gail, I'm sure that
Right.
was part of their thinking. I'm not specifically aware of that.
Sure.
But they've had this in the works for some time, and they did make a lot of improvements to the inside.
Right.
In order to make this, a bigger and better, not bigger, same footprint, but better establishment. And as you say, they're in the district, so hopefully that inures to the benefit of the city.
Well, I'm happy to see a business investing in the corridor, so I'm happy to support this. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else?
Mayor.
Mrs. Strauss.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, through the chair to our petitioner. So this is a Class C liquor license, so they've already been selling beer and wine?
No, they have not had
They have nothing.
any alcohol.
So
in
no
this
alcohol, so this is the
establishment.
first time, okay.
Yes.
And so so to the point of the concern of the residents, what are the safeguards that we're going to have so that the children are going to be kept safe and that we're not going to have any crossover? So what are your safeguards?
Great question. So they have implemented a wristband system so that in busy times, they're going to have someone at the door at all times. And if you are of age, you're going to get a bright yellow wristband that says verified and checked over 21. On really slow times, they'll do that at the bar area and in the restaurant area. They have implemented an employee acknowledgement form, really is what it is, that says if you violate any of liquor control's rules, you're fired. And in that form, it describes the fact that this is a family establishment and that children are the foremost priority. I mean, that's what really what a Zap Zone is. Certainly, young adults go there and adults go there, but it's a lot of kids, a lot of families, and they know that. And this is their 8th, I think, Zap Zone, so they're really aware of that. Also, they have signage everywhere, big signs, this is a family establishment, drink responsibly, alcohol and minors is 0 tolerance, that kind of thing. They have the similar types of things in place for intoxicated persons, which is another, big violation with Michigan Liquor Control. I don't really see that as being an issue. People come to these places, they do their activities, and they leave. They are going to have employees manned at any special events, and also, not the entire premises is licensed. So, for example, there's this ninja area that's for kids, and so that's not part of the licensed premises. No alcohol is allowed, and we provided the city with a diagram of what's licensed and what isn't. So essentially, it is the bar area, the little restaurant area, and the axe throwing area, and they've got a whole protocol for axe throwing, because I know a lot of people think that doesn't go well. But I've done many of these axe throwing bars, and they work with the national axe throwing, committee, for lack of a better word, and Liquor Control has adopted all of those, and those protocols are also required. There's no minors allowed in the axe throwing area. There's no alcohol allowed in the axe throwing area. You must have closed-toed shoes, all of those kinds of things, and so that there's no drinking and throwing involved.
Very good, thank you. And another question, so as you said, there are other Zap Zones. Do they also have liquor licenses already in some of these other
They
places?
do not. There's Zap Zone in Delta Township, Lansing area, and there's Zap Zone in Pittsfield Township, Ypsilanti.
Okay,
They have licenses.
okay, all right, those are all my questions, thank you.
All right,
Mayor Taylor?
Mr. Schmidt.
Through the chair to Mr. Koszybski, I guess. Mr. Koszybski, I'm assuming that there's no issue with the Baptist Temple across the street being in close proximity to a liquor license?
Mr. Koszybski.
That's a good question. I don't recall there being an issue with it, and the state is.
Doesn't it have to be certain distance away from a liquor license without
does.
permission?
Well, I let the petitioner answer that question.
If there is a church or school within 500 feet from the applicant's establishment, the way the commission measures it, which is not as the crow flies, but right angles from the corners of the establishments, then they don't get notice, and it's not prohibited under the liquor code.
Okay. So I guess the
So we
state-
didn't get a notice on this one.
There's no issue.
So
Okay.
it's outside.
Just outside.
Okay, and I do recall probably 3-4 months ago seeing a different Zap Zone was on Channel 2 News on a Saturday, and they were saying all the improvements they were making there. And it sounds like this is exactly what they're doing here too. It sounds like they're improving all of their facilities. So, and I thought they had a liquor license at that one, but I could be mistaken. So I just wanted to make sure that we were good with the temple, though. Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congrats, good luck. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. This is to consider a second amendment to the development agreement for the Verandas Planned Unit Development situated on the north side of 14 Mile Road, west of Maple Lane, PPCM 1161. We do have a presentation from our Assistant City Planner, Sean Keenan. Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of the City Council. Maple Lane Holdings LLC is requesting a second amendment to the development agreement to the Verandas PUD, which would adjust the time period in which the equitable adjustment to the sewer charge to be paid for the watering of the 18-hole golf course fairways, greens, roughs, tees, and other grass areas after it's been reconfigured. As you're aware, the development was approved in 2016. The original development agreement did contain the equitable adjustment for the period of 2 years from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021. The development agreement was first amended in 2020, revising the time period for the discount of the 2-year period, beginning in January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. This two-year time period does fit in with the developer's new construction timeline, which has been pushed back due to the delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and market conditions. Therefore, the applicant, one sec.
Nope.
No screen yet. All right. All right, sorry about that. Therefore, the applicant is requesting the second amendment to the two-year time period in which the water rate would be discounted, would apply, which would be from April 1st, 2028 to October 31st, 2028, and April 1st, 2029 to October 31st, 2029, provided that the construction begins no later than November 1st, 2027. Up on the screen, you can see paragraph 18B. In the red is the one paragraph that is requested to be amended. There's nothing else that this amendment would change in the development agreement or the concept plan or anything else. This is just related to the adjustment of the water rates. It should be noted that, again, it just pertains to the water rates. The Office of Planning doesn't see any drawbacks with the request, and Mr. Dominic Moshiri is here to answer any questions, and I'm also here to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Shea.
I didn't even know this was on until I met Mr. Masheri earlier in the meeting. Maple Lane Golf Course or this project, I'm 100%, 120% behind this amendment and this agreement. The Masheri Corporation and stuff, we go way back. I mean, I used to fight them all the time on their projects, different places throughout the city and stuff. And I got to tell you, their developments through Oakland, Macomb, and around the surrounding areas are amazing. They do really good work, and I'm looking forward to this when they do put a shovel in the ground. They do good work, and I really support this because their projects are amazing, and I know they're going to do a great job there. And thanks for keeping the golf course open currently. I mean, they could have easily closed it, but they kept it open and stuff, which is nice. So this is going to be a nice asset for Sterling Heights. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shea. Anyone else on this item? Okay, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Zarko.
Resolve to approve the second amendment to the development agreement between the City of Sterling Heights and Maple Lane Holdings LLC for the Verandas Planned Unit Development, case number PPCM 1161, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the second amendment on behalf of the city.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Zarko?
I think Mr. Shea said it the best, is the Masheri family have been great partners here in our community for many years. Their reputation speaks for itself. And I think with some of the circumstances that have, happened in the last, few years is with COVID and the fact that they've been able to keep the golf course open, and it became more popular after Sunnybrook closed because all the leagues from Sunnybrook came over to Maple Lane. So I don't think that they even expected to be as busy as they are. And I think they've been good partners, so and as long as we're going through with the development, I don't see a problem here.
Okay,
I
thank you.
just wish I'd have put my deposit on a lot 8 years ago at that market rate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
through the chair, I guess through the Office of Planning, what is the cost of this amendment? Nowhere in our packet does it say how much money they'll be saving on this amendment. I guess Mr. Mashiri might have an answer to this.
Since you're like my straight man today, Mr. Radke.
Sure.
Dominic Mosheri, Maple Lane Holding Company. It costs the city nothing. You know, what we have here is we're paying for the water, and we're watering the grass. So why should we be paying a sewer charge if it's not going down the sewers? So there's no cost because there's no service rendered. I want to make it very clear. We're not asking for any favors here. We're not asking for any discounts. We're just not asking to be charged for a service that's not rendered. If we're not providing a sewer service, we should not be paying for a sewer service. And we're just watering the grass. And you already have something similar for the residents of Sterling Heights in a modified form. So we appreciate that, because it's a great question. It's like I set you up for it.
Well, I mean,
There's no cost to the city.
in your opinion, I don't disagree with what you're saying. At the same time, residents do pay a sewer fee on attached to this. Now, your argument is it's gonna go right into the grass and not down the drain. I understand what your argument is. But there is a value here, otherwise you wouldn't ask for it.
You do have a modified formula for residents that apply that for irrigation in their off months, they're not paying a sewer charge. And it might be like a 3 months average or something like that.
Right.
So that's already provided. This is just a different formula.
Oh, I understand that.
Okay.
But there is a monetary value, or you would not ask for it. So what is the
There's a
savings?
monetary value that we clearly are requesting that we not pay for services that's not provided.
Sure. But what would the cost be if you were to pay for it?
I don't know that answer.
So I'm asking the Office of Planning, for the chair of the Office of Planning, what would that cost be?
I unfortunately wouldn't know that because it all depends upon how much water would be used during the duration of the reconstruction of the golf course, how much watering they would need to apply for. I believe some of the ponds will be also used for irrigation, so I unfortunately don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, so they go through the process.
You're out of order, sir. Hold on.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Keenan. Mr. Mosheri,
Sure,
please.
thank you. The water that is to fill the ponds comes from the Red Run Drain. The golf course will be continually watered from the Red Run Drain, but the ponds that we're going to be creating to provide for the irrigation with the amount of demand, which is uncertain depending on the amount of rain we have that season, this is a supplemental water to fill the ponds. So the water will not be connected to the irrigation system that we're going to be paying for from the city. It'll be going into the ponds and then pumped out of there. The reason that we're not using wells, because we dug 8 wells on the site, there's a high sulfuric and natural gas component due to the landfill directly to the east. And so if you were to do a well and open the faucet, you'd have put a Zippo lighter next to it, you'd have a flame. So we care not to buy expensive water from the city, and we understand the imposition and the consternation. I clearly understand it, but we don't have the ability to use well water. And the Red Run Drain, we have an ability to only pump so much water out of the Red Run Drain. So this is to accentuate the ponds during the growing season only for the golf course. I don't have that number, because we don't know the precipitation, but it'll be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars as far as the expenditure for water, and not paying for the sewer.
Not counting the drain fees, obviously.
That's good, not counting the sanitary fees. So it's going to be probably between $300,000 and $500,000 just for the water. And with the sewer would be nearly double, but I don't know the sewer rates. So I don't know that to say it's double, because I don't know what the sewer rates are comparatively.
Right. So my concern, firstly, is that there is no number in our packet. And I think that when you ask us to make a modification like this, we should value it in some way. Now, I'm not saying that value is the correct value. We could decide up here as members that value is different because, again, it doesn't go into the drain, it goes into the ground or whatever. But I think it's hard to say that there's no value attached. And I thought that it was funny that our packet doesn't have any value on what is obviously a value to him, because if he wouldn't be asking for it if it was a zero net. So I think that's my first problem. My second problem is, and this is no offense to you, Mr. Mosheri, I appreciate the business you do in Sterling Heights. This PUD was negotiated before I was elected to council. It was 8 years ago, actually, this meeting. And it has some requirements in there that I find to be very disconcerting. One of them being that it is completely exempted from our tree plan. So essentially, our current tree replacement and preservation plan for landmark trees, this PUD is exempt from it. I think that that's a problem, because I think it's hard to say that we are asking all of our residents right now, just passed a ballot initiative to plant more trees to preserve green space, and essentially we are allowing a developer to exempt themselves from that requirement. Now, I think there's gonna be plenty of green space, and there will be some trees, but I think that this PUD, which is now 8 years old, on a 21-year time frame, it's the longest PUD I've ever seen in my life, I think that that's very disconcerting, because I think that a lot of things have changed since 2016. Some of them we're here for because construction hasn't started because of the length of time. And I think it's unfair to the residents that they are being held to a different standard than developer. So while I respect the work you do, Mr. Mosher, I think it's excellent work, I'm going to be voting no, because I think this PUD needs to be renegotiated to essentially include our tree program in it. And also, I guess I'll go one step further, I find it very frustrating that I worked at Maple Lane Golf Course when I was in the 7th grade. I rode my bike in the street because there was no sidewalk on either side of Maple Lane Golf Course. That was 25 years ago. There is still no sidewalk on either side of Maple Lane Golf Course. There's nothing on 14 Mile. The city added on the east side of Maple Lane a sidewalk. But as it stands right now, and maybe through the chair to Mr. Mosheri, when are the plans to add the sidewalk to link our neighborhood so residents can walk around this corner in Sterling Heights?
So may I answer 3 questions through the mayor?
Yeah.
Number one, with the PUD, there is what is called community benefits. And there's several community benefits in regards to the open space, recreation, and other activities that are planned for the community, and the variation in the options of housing choices. And there is a test plan. I must remind the city council of, including you, Mr. Etke, if you say you study the proposal, I have a use by right to put in just very linear streets and have a use by right to just bring this before the planning commission and to have 995 homes without any variances, without nothing sought. And the trees, and that's the first question, and first, if you really study it, you gotta look at the community benefits, and there's a series of community benefits, including the sidewalks, that'll be put in the proper time when we build the community. Otherwise, you put the sidewalks in early, you're gonna rip all the sidewalks out, because the sidewalks don't line up with the future curb cuts, the floodplain, and the other issues. In regards to trees, we were the first development at the vineyards that incurred through the tree preservation plan. And if you look at the vineyards is, as far as anyone could testify, it is the tantamount, it is the poster child of green space and trees and tree ordinance. That ordinance was co-drafted between the developing team and the planning staff at the city of Sterling Heights, brought before the city for that. So if anyone's more familiar with the tree site, it's ourselves. And in regards to the trees at Maple Lane, 90% of the trees are Siberian elms. They are past their useful life and they're breaking, like you can't plant Bradford pears. There's certain trees that you cannot plant in the city of Sterling Heights. And the trees that are being removed, 90% of them are trees that you cannot plant. So why would you be preserving trees that you can't plant? They're illegal trees. Yes, that's a fact. So if you are going to go in there and plant trees that should not be planted, I'm going off the rails. By the way, this part of the community benefits is the green space that goes with it. And there's a landscape plan that's quite extensive with the PUD. So there's a landscape plan that goes in with the plan that shows for every community, street trees, perimeter trees, and things of that nature. And if I've missed something that you brought up, and please do, if you remind me, Mr. Radke, there was a 4th item, trees, sidewalks, and was there something else I'm missing?
Not that I can think of, but.
Okay, and if you're gonna, impugn us in regards to not.
I'm not impugning you, sir.
Well, the tree ordinance.
Before you impugn me,
But the tree ordinance, I'm gonna take exception to that. no one stands more for landscaping and for trees than our organization. And no one knows more about flora and fauna and trees in this entire audience than myself. I recall back 30 years ago, when Jerry was coming up here pounding the table saying, we need a tree ordinance. And I remember saying that my children walked through the forest and all they said, that's a 398 tree and a 467 tree. It's the elk and elm and everything else. What we want to do is preserve native trees and make certain that we have trees that have a useful life and canopy. Those trees lining the fairways are, for the most part, over 80% of those trees lining the fairways are Siberian elm. They don't last. It's like you don't plant any longer a Bradford pear, because at 20 years they crack and they break. And that's what we have there. We have plenty of trees that we're preserving in the plan. I can't tell you the quantity of what those are and what they may be. But again, with the PUD, and I never thought we'd be talking about this right now, because no good deed goes unpunished. And I would suggest that you go to page 11 and page 10 and 11 of the PUD booklet, when you have the opportunity. And you could see what you can do by right. I have copies with us. I don't want to make it part of this motion or get distracted. I will leave them with Mr. Keenan, who can provide you them after the meeting today, and you can see what we could do by right. Don't make an issue. This is not a threat. You could do by right. We have a PUD. We are here for one simple thing,
Mr. Mayor,
to change the, not out of order.
Answering.
We have one thing we're on the agenda for, and that is to extend the time period that we can get a differential rate for the water and not pay for the sewer charge. And that's the only thing on the agenda this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not impugning them, but if they're supporting the tree, what is the problem with being under our tree ordinance? They have exempted themselves from the tree ordinance, and I'll
I
be
didn't
frank-
exempt myself.
Well, no,
It was
you're
done by
on
the
board,
council.
sir, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mashiri, you got to let him finish talking.
I only have one thing on the agenda today. I'm willing to speak regarding.
It's out of order right now, Mr. Mayor.
If we have more questions, we'll call you back up. Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was not on council when this agreement was signed. I have issues with the agreement as signed. And we're renegotiating right here. If he wants to put a shovel in the ground by 2025, he's right to go, but we are amending the contract. We have a right to amend the contract. We can amend it in any way we see fit. So the idea that this is the only thing on the agenda, that's not true. So to me, the agreement should be, if we are going to give them hundreds of thousands of dollars in water rights, I think that we should have them follow our tree replacement plan, because we all agree that our tree canopy currently is at 19%. We are trying to raise the canopy, and to have a large development exempt from it doesn't make sense to me. And it's not personal. I don't like that this has become personal up here. It's very frustrating to me, because I have a right to ask questions as a member of this council and not be yelled at by the audience. I find it very frustrating. So the council will do what the council does. I am just bringing to the fore the idea that there is no value placed on this in our packet. It is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And maybe it should be incumbent upon us to renegotiate, because the current agreement, when I saw it in 2019, this was the last time we were going to amend it. And now we're amending it another time. So that's all I have. What the council does. But to me, we can do better, because we're asking our residents to do better. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? Here's what I'll say. I don't think that there's any way we could even estimate what the cost is going to be, because if it rains every other day, then there will be no cost. If there's no rain for the entire season, then the cost will be significantly higher. But to me, the bottom line is this. It's as Mr. Mashiri stated. It's hard for me to think of this as money that the city is giving to the developer here, when the city will provide them with no service whatsoever. And all he's asking is that he not pay for a service he's not receiving. It's equitable, in my opinion, regardless of anything else with the PUD. But I understand your position. I respectfully disagree. I'm going to support it. I think it's a good project. I think it makes sense you shouldn't be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for something you're not receiving. So nobody would think that that's fair under any other context. And it would not be fair for the city to charge sewer fees when it's not providing sewer services. So with no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Thank you, Mr. Masheri.
And Mr. Keenan can support these after the meeting.
Yep,
I want to remind everybody what can be done by right without.
we got,
I understand, we understand, sir.
we got it. All right, thank you so much. All right, moving on. Next up is a consideration item. This is to consider an appointment to the City of Sterling Heights Board of Ordinance Appeals 2, the alternate position. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
resolved to appoint Julie Hoff Windhorst to the Board of Ordinance Appeals 2, alternate to a term ending June 30th, 2026, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Schmidt?
No, Mayor.
Council? No further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is communications from citizens. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item that was not on tonight's agenda? Start with Mrs. Nias.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yvonne Nias. I have two things on, that I'd like to mention today. The first one relates to the temporary sign ordinance. One thing is that all temporary signs shall be removed within 7 days if they are no longer necessary or capable of fulfilling their intended purpose. And I believe that would include political signs, and there are many, many still hanging out in the city that I would like to see removed, as it's no longer relevant. The other thing is the size and quantity of the signs. Short-term, and I believe that temporary signs apply to real estate signs, political signs, this, proud home of a graduate from whatever school, et cetera. And I know that real estate development has a different, falls under a different thing, but I think that the for sale signs would fall under this. Short-term temporary signs shall not exceed 3 square feet. If anyone has any idea how small that is, it's pretty darn small. I went around and did some measuring in the last month. A very common size for a sign is 28 by 22, which is 616 square inches, 4.28 square feet. So those signs violate the sign ordinance. Another thing is total square footage for temporary signage should not exceed 9 square feet, which is minuscule, especially if you accidentally get a couple of those 4.28 square foot signs. So I think that needs to be addressed, probably before you all are up for reelection, because your signs are probably larger than 3 square feet.
Not mine.
The other thing is about trees. And when I was on council a long time ago, I asked that we not plant trees underneath power lines, because in a few years, they start to look like Vs because DTE or ITC comes in and chops out the middle of the tree. I was told that there would be no more trees planted under power lines. There currently are trees being planted under power lines. One is over at Edison Court. ITC has regulations. Under the wires, you can only have flowers and nothing bigger than, say, a bottle grass, ornamental grass. Then there's a near border zone that you can have shrubbery, and then the far zone, you can have smaller trees. Now, trees are being planted there, and first of all, I don't think they should be, but I would like to know what kind of trees they are. And the other thing is, there's a detention pond on Hay, it's like faces Hayes, it's near 18 Mile, there's a lot of Phragmites in there. And they just recently planted a bunch of trees, and those trees would be in the near border zone. I would like to know what kind of trees those are as well, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nyas. Anyone else? We'll get
Either way.
Mr. Russo.
Julio Russo. I came tonight just to kind of put out a little shout out to you guys that, you know, over the course of my life, I've had a number of businesses in Sterling Heights, and businesses work together with the cities. And when you have a successful business in a city and you give to the city, there should be some respect back. And I have a business that's being abused to that. And I'm really upset about it. Unfortunately, the city manager is off, and I had a shout out to him, but I didn't know he had a death in the family. But it's just, when you guys decide that this person is gonna go around and make violations for the community, and they've been a police officer all their life, or they've been whatever, they either have to go through some kind of education or to understand what building's all about, what to look for, how to look for it, who to go after. You know, you can't put one thing over another, but you got to understand what was there prior to this. Now, you just were talking about things that were 21 years old and some of these decisions. That's gone on here for a long time in Sterling Heights. Her husband calls my neighborhood the big tree area. Didn't you tell me that?
King of the
Okay.
trees, yeah.
We got big trees in our neighborhood. They're all beautiful trees. I've had issues with the city coming through and wanting to chop them up like they're nothing. This has been going on. So there's all these things that when you pick a person to do the jobs that they have to go around and do, you got to understand that they got to know exactly what to look for. You don't pick out one thing over something else, and you just drove past 500 violations, and all of a sudden something comes into your brain that, oh, Julio's got a truck out front, or Julio's got this, or Julio's got that. That doesn't just come up in your brain. That's not popped up where you say, hey, all of a sudden. This is some person complaining or something. I don't know what it is. It could be a personal thing, jealousy. A lot of times when you own a business, you got a lot of jealous people. They want to open a business down the street and they're jealous of what you're doing, so they make problems for you. You gotta like understand that kind of stuff. And as a council, you have to promote business in the community. You have to promote a resident having a business in your community and give them that same respect. I'm not some guy that lives in Bloomfield Hills and comes over here and wines and dines Sterling Heights to get my multi-million-dollar. I'm the resident that puts a little small business in to give kids from Stevenson, kids from Utica High School a job. Okay? It's not for just solely for me. Okay? I don't need to do it at my age. I don't need to do this. I did it because I had the building and my parents upholded this community for 68 years. I have to say it again.
All right,
Thank you, I'm
thank you,
sorry.
Mr. Russo. All right, Mr. Shea.
Good evening, Jerry Shea, Sterling Heights. I don't know if this is true or not, but one item I want to bring up, you have a new DPW building, and I don't know if it's on, if you change the name or the name's off, but if the name's down from Ray Filipchik, I'd like to see his name put back up on the building. He was an excellent city employee. He's an outstanding councilman, and I think it's doing, it's disrespectful. You take it down and you don't put it back up. I think, I don't know if it's up there or not, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't been by the new DPW building, so if you can answer that question. Secondly, what's going on with Lakeside Mall? Just to let you know, regarding the Sears building was sold in 2022, roughly between $20 and $25 million. Why didn't the developer in Florida buy the building when it was for sale? It's ludicrous to think you got all these bells and whistles for this project and he doesn't own all the property. I'd like to know how much the state of Michigan and the city of Sterling Heights so far has spent on this project, and what are the chances of, if it's going to be built? The news last week wasn't very promising, so if you can answer those questions. And I want to bring up Veterans Day. You guys had an unveiling. I decided to go see the monument. It's great that you honor the veterans. I like veterans deserve to be honored every day of the week. There's many homeless veterans. There's 7 veterans a day that die by suicide. But when I seen the monument, the Sterling Heights logo was front and center. No American, should have had at least the American flag there, or you should have had the service, the branch services on the top, but you got them on the bottom very small. I want to know how much was spent for this monument, and you're doing, it's really disrespectful to the veterans. It's more like a monument to the Sterling Heights. It doesn't make any sense. You do this on Veterans Day, and you disparage all the service members that fought in all the wars for this country. And it needs to be fixed. It's really disappointing to see. I don't know if you guys know Mr. Bashiri there. If you go up on Adams in Silverbell, he donated 10 acres of property for a veterans memorial, probably one of the best veterans memorial in this area. It's unbelievable what they did. And you know what they did? You don't have any council members' names. You didn't have any city names. You had veterans, their service and everything. They promoted the veterans. They honored the veterans, and it was amazing. And we come here, Sterling Heights. It needs to be fixed. I don't want to, we know it's a veterans memorial because it's between the police station and City Hall. You don't even need to have your logo on it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shea. Anybody else under communications from citizens? Not, close that portion and go on to reports. Anything tonight, Mr. Bohorsky?
Nothing, Mayor, other than I took a lot of notes, and we'll be getting back to the speakers under citizen comment with as much information as we can provide.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Koszybski?
Yes, Mayor, I have 2 items for closed session.
Okay, council, reports, new business, unfinished business. All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion, all in favor, or no, we need a roll call vote. I was just trying to jam it.
Trying to make it.
All right, Mrs. Riska, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Yanes,
Yes.
Yargo,
Yes.
Kowski,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Kresge,
Yes.
Mayor Taylor.
Yes. Okay, motion carries 7-0. We will adjourn into closed session for the time being, for the purpose stated earlier in this meeting. We may yet be returning, we likely will be returning, but we will adjourn now into closed session. All right, calling this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council back to order. Mrs. Sarowski.
Yes, Mayor Taylor, resolved to authorize the city attorney to pursue all available remedies to abate the nuisance conditions and code and ordinance violations existing at 40321 Brentwood.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
No, Mayor Taylor.
No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.